we tell women's stories. We interview women from all over the world to hear their stories, how they got to where they are today, because it's easier to be what you can see. And I'm delighted to be interviewing Lucy Vail today. Lucy, welcome to She Can. You are an award-winning sustainable floral design company specializing in weddings, events, and installations. You're renowned for bringing the outside in, and your bold use of color. You can transform any space into an immersive botanical wonderland. And I have seen some of those spaces and they're spectacular. All your projects are seasonable and sustainable and are mostly made from British grown flowers. Tell us a bit more about yourself and your business.
Oh, well, thank you, first of all, for having me. It's such an honor. And yeah, it's so great to be here. I set up my business, I think now like 7 years ago, but I first started making Christmas wreaths when I was 16. And so the background about how I got in, I never actually thought I was going to go into flowers. I made wreaths since I was 16 to make extra pocket money at Christmas. And I then studied history of art at Edinburgh. And I've never really been like an academic. I've always been really creative and always wanting to get my hands dirty. And in my last year of Edinburgh uni, I got asked to do a wedding, to which I'd never done anything before like it. And I said to the client, oh gosh, I think I'm booked, but let me just double check. And I called up the person who taught me how to do these wreaths. And I said to her, I was like, do you think I can do it? And she was like, I think 100%, you've got it in you. You're very creative. So I taught myself off YouTube for 6 months. And we did a 250 person wedding. And I was obsessed with, dressing the whole space. So I did hanging balls from the ceiling, which I would hang off my parents' garage to check that they didn't fall off with me. And yeah, we did it, and it was 250 people. It was absolutely amazing. We got so many clients from it. And I, at the time, realized being like, I think this is what I want to do. So I spoke to a party planner, very high-end party planner in London, and I said, who's the best company at the moment in the world? And she mentioned this company in Florence. And so I begged for work with them for 3 months. I got it. They definitely thought I was a lot better than I was. I got paid €7 an hour. We worked 18-hour days in Florence, and then I worked in Venice. We did Kim Kardashian's wedding and George Clooney's. It was the best training ever. I learned that, how hard it is to be in the industry, and I really learned about how to really graft for it. But I knew that this was what I wanted to do. And from training in Italy, we had people, because they were the most amazing florists. There were florists from all over the world. So I learned from so many different people. And I came back to London. This was in 2015 must have been. And I set up my own business, and it's been a roller coaster of a ride. But it's unbelievable. And now we are doing weddings and events all over the world, with some mega budgets, some installations, doing the main entrance of Chelsea Flower Show. And we're really becoming artists globally, but using the most sustainable products, and really trying to show that no matter where we are in the world, we can always create something unbelievable using as many locally sourced flowers as possible. And that's kind of my story from how I
An
started.
amazing story, Lucy. And if I think back, I definitely ordered wreaths. I don't remember if you were just 16.
I
You were
know.
just doing wreaths at the time. You weren't yet set up with your
No.
whole business. And I remember them hanging on my door. So I remember that very vividly. And I can't believe that you've set up such an unbelievably successful business out of nothing. And you
Yeah.
also made your parents turn their place into a flower farm, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was during COVID when I lost it, I put so much work into the business, and at this point we were sort of 4 years in. And we were about to do the main entrance of Chelsea Flower Show. And we had a back-to-back summer of weddings and events, and COVID hit. And it was actually in some ways the turning point of my business, and also the turning point in the sustainable future. And so at that point, I refused to give up, and delivered, I think probably to your house as well, doing food and flowers to people's doorsteps.
Yeah.
And I linked with a caterer, and the only way that we could get flowers was from locally sourced. So we got flowers from these guys in Shropshire called Stokesay Flowers. And I went back, I hadn't gone back to my parents' house for a good 4 or 5 months because we weren't allowed to. And I didn't want to leave my business here. But when I did, it was in September, and I saw dahlias, which were the size of my face. And I was thinking, God, I've been getting all of these flowers from everywhere else in the UK, but actually there's a gem that is right here. And actually the original story of Floriston was that it was owned by Culpeppers, who was one of the biggest herb growers in the UK tens and tens of years ago. So we knew that the soil was rich and right for it. And Mum, who was a photographer, said, well, come on, let's give it a go, and started off with 1/4 acre. And now they're nearly up to an acre of flowers, and they deliver on average between 1,000 to 2,000 stems a week to ourselves and to the local flower markets. So it's unbelievable, and gosh, I don't think it also made me realize like how much work goes into growing. I didn't realize that they worked so unbelievably hard. But it makes that, each and every stem that comes to us even more special because you know how much work's gone into it, but also we're governed by the seasons, by colour, by them really, who educate us on what's the best grown around us. So it's been amazing, and there have definitely obviously been arguments along the way, but usually about if Mum gets a flower that is unbelievable and hasn't been seen before, she might jack up the price a little bit. There's usually arguments on prices and things like that, but it's absolutely amazing what they've achieved, and super proud of it's just magical what they've built.
Yeah, I think you together build something so magical, and of course, and how they feed your business and you feed into them. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Lucy, tell us a little bit more. You obviously have had ups and downs over the years. What do you feel are sort of the biggest challenges that you face with your venture?
Gosh, I think there's always a constant challenge. And I think the minute that there isn't a challenge, I'm definitely in the wrong career, because that's what I sort of feed off. But I think it's always at the beginning, it was believing in myself. And, I started in a shipping container down the road, and it really was tiny. And it was absolutely freezing. It was really dodgy. And I had this one guy who ordered 3 bouquets a week, and that kept me going. But also knowing that there are so many things, one year you think you've got a lot of work, the next year it's so seasonal, so you've just got to be so prepared. And I think from having COVID as well was a complete, it really was like a real, gut-wrenching. God, I think that was a massive, scary nightmare, being like, God, I've got £1 in the bank. And I thought I had a full year of revenue. But it's really it really made me go back to the foundations of how to build a business, and to really think about, actually focus on what makes you money, rather than constantly sort of chasing everything that you dream to do, which actually at the end of the day uses up so much time, and doesn't necessarily fuel the business. But I think my biggest challenge, I think definitely at the beginning, is just really believing in yourself and constantly questioning whether you're doing the right thing. And I still today do that. I think also another challenge is with hiring. And when I first started, I hired someone who was amazing at the time, but you sort of use her as a crutch, and not having enough faith in myself made me, I think, the business, there's so many challenges basically. And then also becoming a mother is another challenge in itself. As a woman, I have so much respect for anyone running a business as a woman, because it's tough, and you can't keep off the phone. I love my work. My work is my first baby. But equally, mentally and physically, having a child is exhausting at the beginning, so you really can't be there. But I've built now the most amazing team who have literally been, if without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. And it's pretty amazing to think that when I gave birth, I had 40 florists and my main team in Como doing the biggest event of my career. And if it wasn't for my right-hand girl and for the girls here, it wouldn't have been pulled off. And suddenly that's when the business really turned around, when I realized that I didn't need to be there at every second. But sorry, that was probably just
that's brilliant. See, I think I love that, because you went from the beginning to what it is now, and you really managed to scale your business to a point where you don't have to be there every second of the day, which is the hardest thing to do. And everybody that runs a business knows that. It's to have the right team, to be able to delegate. That is just a dream, actually, if one manages that. Lucy, so what do you feel are your qualities that make you so good at what you do? You mentioned it before. You're really creative. What are your other qualities that really serve you every day?
I think to love what you do and to be super passionate about what you do. I have always wanted to create sort of a ballet in some ways, being a real set designer and bring in people who are super creative, who are really think outside the box. They don't just think about the flowers on the table. We look at the whole piece as the thing. And there we have architects, we have builders, we have painters. And for me, what I'm good at is I'm a very personal person. Anyone who comes to work for me is like a family. And I really believe that we have created something incredible, because I think very emotionally about it, and I'm very passionate about what we do, and a real perfectionist. And it's all about the detail. It's all about creating that set design that no one's ever seen anything. And I want any person to walk into whatever we've done to transform them into an extraordinary space. And so I think that my sort of superpower is doing that, is giving people a feeling into another world, and to sort of escape from this reality. And with the team and the people that we've met along the way, has made me love my job even more.
Lucy, it sounds like the dream job, and I know that it is a dream for you, but it's also must be extremely stressful. What would you say are your biggest achievements, the things you're most proud of?
I think my biggest achievement still to date is doing the royal entrance for Chelsea Flower Show. And it was the last time we saw the Queen go to Chelsea Flower Show and leave Chelsea Flower Show. I think that's, we used 4,000 plants. We used 10,000 cut British stems. I brought in an amazing English craftsman who did all the wooden urns, another craftsman who did these beautiful wicker crowns that went on top of the arch. And we were sponsored by Anushka Dukas, who allowed us to create something unbelievable and is still to date Chelsea's favorite archway that they've done. So I think that's definitely up there. And I'd say like the second thing is probably going to Lake Como last year, going back to the roots of where I first started and where I trained, and having 10 florists that I first trained with come not only from Korea to work with us, but all over Italy, and to build something unbelievable. But also equally, my team pulled off and I had a baby. So yeah, God, it gets you kind of like emotional when you sort of go through
It
life.
does. It does, because you've been able to do it all at the same time, sort of.
Yeah.
That's an
So I
incredible.
think, yeah, I think where the business is going to now globally is I could never ever have imagined it from when I first started in a shipping container in Battersea. It's unbelievable. So exciting.
So give us some top tips, Lucy. What do you think are the things that made you succeed, made you hang in there? What tips can you give to other women who are maybe now thinking, I'm in the phase of the shipping container, of a tiny space, with 3 bouquets a week? What would you tell them?
I think you've just got to believe in yourself. You've set up the business for a reason. You will have highs and lows, never the in between, but those highs are unbelievable. The lows are horrible, but it's totally worth it. And I can tell you, when I was literally in floods of tears, when it was snowing, I was absolutely freezing in 10 layers. I'm now in an incredible studio and going all over the world for it. And it's the hard graft and it's the drive that you put in, and it's that £1 in your bank account that can turn into so much more if you just believe in yourself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Lucy, so what are your plans, your goals? What are the next years looking like for you and your business?
So I think my dream, and I think we are getting closer to it, is I want to be the best florist known globally. And I want to be doing weddings and events and becoming true artists no matter where we are in the world. And to really make a better future using the most sustainable mechanics and using as much locally sourced wherever we are. So yeah, I think my aim is to be doing something unbelievable, and where it's already this year we are in Italy, and at the end of the year in Abu Dhabi, Doha. Next year we are going to the States. It's just unbelievable. I think the dream is to keep on pivoting, to never be bored of what we do, and to create something extraordinary with the most unbelievable team. But there is definitely, I think, when you get to this phase, there is definitely no I in team. It is all of us. And I'm very lucky to have the people around me.
Lucy, thank you for telling your story, a deeply inspiring story of a mom and an entrepreneur. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.